Most American Christians still know the Bible, and they know that the jihadists are not the Bible. Don't let Palestine win. It'll take over Israel and destroy the biblical story. Israel is a biblical story coming to life right now. The return of the Jewish people, the ingathering, the rebuilding of Jerusalem. It's an amazing story, and most Christians who love Israel will continue to support Israel.
Whether Israel can do anything to remedy this is unclear. What is clear is that photos of the IDF attacking icons of Jesus with a sledgehammer are unlikely to resolve the situation. Joining me to debate all of this is former Israeli hostage negotiator Gershom Baskin, retired Lieutenant Colonel and IDF spokesman Jonathan Conricus, Ishai Fleischer, the international spokesperson for the Jewish community of Hebron and advisor to the Israeli government, and Gideon Levy, author and commentator for Haaretz. So welcome to all of you. Jonathan Conricus, let's just start, if we may, with this appalling image of an IDF soldier in southern Lebanon attacking and destroying an icon of Jesus Christ with a sledgehammer. And this has now been confirmed by Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu said today, I was stunned and saddened to learn that an IDF soldier damaged a Catholic religious icon in southern Lebanon. I condemn the act in the strongest terms. We express regret for the incident and for any hurt this has caused to believers in Lebanon and around the world. And the IDF itself posted on X, the IDF views the incident with great severity and emphasizes the soldier's conduct is wholly inconsistent with the values expected of its troops. The IDF is working to assist the community in restoring the statue to its place. A priest in Debel said the cross was part of a small shrine in the garden of a family living on the edge of the village. There will be many American Christians, Jonathan, who are already probably reeling, if they're Catholic, from President Trump's constant attacks against Pope Leo. But they're now looking at this and thinking, why are we supporting this attack on Iran with Israel if the IDF in Lebanon are desecrating icons of Jesus Christ? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I wouldn't. Hello, Piers. Shalom from Israel. I wouldn't make any, connection between the two different things. One is American foreign policy, the pursuit of defeating the Iranian regime, making sure that they don't have nuclear weapons, and protecting Americans and American interest from a future significant threat against the U.S. That's one thing. That's the why the U.S. is fighting against Iran. Has absolutely nothing to do with this reprehensible act, criminal act by an Israeli soldier. I hope that what the Prime Minister said and what the IDF has publicly said will happen, that there will be swift and transparent disciplinary measures. This is a soldier who I don't think he is fit to serve, definitely not in combat, and maybe not in the IDF at all, and should be punished for desecrating a religious symbol. And I think it's absolutely contrary to everything that we stand for. I could only wish that, I saw your tweet, which got 1 million views, and I've seen lots of other coverage of it. Obviously, the usual people are out there feasting, not necessarily you in this category, but the usual anti-Semites feasting on this reprehensible act by an IDF soldier. Didn't see these same people even tweet when, hundreds of Christians were massacred in Nigeria, or when churches were bombed and desecrated by Muslims in Syria or Iran or Iraq or any other place, or when Christians in Arab Christians in Palestine are forced to flee out of persecution by Sunni Muslims. It is something special when Jews are caught on camera doing horrible and indefensible actions to Christian symbols. But I suggest that we put, we check and treat everything as, equal. Last thing I'll say, and I think the Prime Minister said it pretty clearly, if we put things into context and to answer the question of, Christians supporting Israel, Israel is the only country in the Middle East where Christians are safe. Israel is the only country where there's freedom of worship in the Middle East. Israel is the only country in the Middle East that has a growing and safe Christian population, where Christians are participating in public and political and economic and academic life. They are free to choose every profession, and they live very good lives, excellent lives, like me and many others do in Israel, contrary to everything else that happens in the Middle East. And I think that is important context. But to summarize and to be very clear, reprehensible, shouldn't have been done. I hope swift action is taken, and I hope that people can look beyond this, which is clickbaity and very interesting on an internet level, and recognize who the real villains and who the real people in the Middle East who are religiously intolerant. Those are the fanatic Muslims. They do far worse than bash the head of a statue, as insensitive and horrible as that is. They take the lives of Christians themselves, or they persecute them. So let's keep that into perspective as we continue speaking.
Yeah, some might view the actions of the IDF soldier to be a pretty extraordinary example of intolerance, actually, particularly of someone else's religious beliefs. But let me come to Gideon Levy, because this dovetails with a very disturbing report that Haaretz, the publication that you write for, put a report out over the weekend featuring anonymous interviews with former IDF soldiers detailing atrocities they'd witnessed in Gaza. One described serving in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza in December 2023 when a platoon noticed suspicious figures and fired. He said, "When we got to a destination, I realized these weren't terrorists. It was an old guy and 3 boys, maybe teenagers. Not one of them was armed, but their bodies were riddled with bullets. Then the battalion commander came over with his people, and one spat on the bodies and yelled, 'This is what happens to anybody who messes with Israel, you sons of bitches.' Another soldier described a shooting at an army outpost in southern Gaza. She said, suddenly the soldiers on watch noticed 5 Palestinians crossing the line they weren't allowed to cross, heading for northern Gaza. The battalion commander gave an order to overwhelm them with fire, even though they hadn't been confirmed as armed or anything like that. A tank started shooting at them with its machine gun, hundreds of bullets. 4 of the 5 Palestinians were killed. A few hours later, a bulldozer buried them in the sand. The article also describes a sniper who shot people seeking aid and drone operators who killed civilians. And there was a lot more very, very shocking detail in this investigation. So you put it together, much as people will listen to Jonathan Comricus and understand context is important, but the combination of that appalling image of this IDF soldier desecrating a statue of Jesus with this report in your publication, it certainly is testing extremely hard, I would argue, this constant refrain we hear that the IDF is the most moral army in the world.
I can assure you that Jonathan will say that those were exceptions. You will bring more and more testimonies by soldiers, and you will always hear the Israeli denial, the Israeli self-denial. There will always be Jonathans who will explain us that those exceptions don't tell us the full story. They will talk about the context, and I want to talk about the context. The context of the soldier who broke this sculpture of Jesus, and the context of those horrible and horrifying stories that we read last Friday in Haaretz is the same context. An army who is now preoccupied in a brutal occupation for decades now cannot behave otherwise. You cannot maintain such an occupation for so many years and remain human. Doesn't work. Didn't work in any other occupation in the world. And the best thing that people like Jonathan can do is once to look at the truth and to admit it. Because we, first of all, need it, we Israelis. What will make people realize that we grow a monster in front of our eyes? What will they make them being convinced that we crossed any possible line? Piers, there are 6 million uprooted people now in the Middle East, wandering around from here to there. Part of them lost their homes forever. In Gaza, in Lebanon, in Iran. Are we really proud to be a country which creates such a reality for 6 million human beings? Isn't it the time once to look at the truth and say, yes, we went too far? Our megalomaniac dreams, our belief that only by force and only by military force, without any restraints, will solve the problems. I don't deny there are problems, there are enemies, there are dangers. But look what we are doing. We are now in all fronts around, refusing any ceasefire. Thanks God we had Donald Trump to stop these 2 wars now. Otherwise, we would continue it forever. And the Jonathans would justify, and they will never acknowledge that something went wrong, that something is sick, basically, not exceptions. I was today in the West Bank. I'm there every week. There is no exceptions anymore. The pogroms of the settlers together with the soldiers, together, planned together, committed together. This is not an exception. This is an army of occupation who cannot operate otherwise but become more and more and more brutal. And here we see the result. And the result you just showed when someone like Ron Emanuel, who speaks Hebrew, who spent some years, I think, in Israel, for him it is enough. He says enough is enough. Not me, the self-hating Jew. Someone who was a real, genuine friend of Israel says enough is enough. And you will hear more and more those voices. And the only way to put an end to it is, first of all, to recognize, to realize that something is wrong with us, for God's sake.
Well, strong words there. Ishai Fleischer, you know, the Rahm Emanuel comments I thought were very striking. He's a very high-profile American Jew, basically saying it's time for America to stop treating Israel as an exceptional country that is worthy of our billions of dollars of support. They should be treated the same as everybody else. And that comes with the backdrop of this Pew Research Center survey showing that more than 60% of Americans now view Israel unfavorably, up from 53% only last year. Now, I'm old enough to remember when these kind of numbers would be utterly unthinkable 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So, you know, as somebody like me who loves Israel as a country, loves Israeli people, has many, many Jewish friends around the world, from LA to Sydney to London, and has become increasingly critical myself of the Israeli government, this one, and how it's been behaving, and critical of many of the actions of the IDF at the behest of this government. You know, I share this sentiment, which is Israel, this government has to be very careful now that it doesn't drive more and more people to hate Israel, which is clearly what is happening. Are you, as somebody who advises the Israeli government, are you aware of this potential crisis? Are you concerned about it, or do you not care?
Yeah, so of course we're concerned about Israel's image around the world. There's no question about it. And there is a crisis. There's no doubt about it. It's fueled in part by anti-Israel media and by very serious work by anti-Israel elements. They might be in Qatar, they might be in Russia, they might be in Iran, they might even be in China via TikTok. And we've lost market share. There's no question about it. Actually, I could talk about that a lot. But we are certainly concerned about it. No doubt about it. We're concerned about it. But that doesn't mean that we can give up our fight to exist. Jewish people haven't been liked for 2,000 years, and yet we were persecuted. And now we're not so liked, but we're still persecuted, but we can fight back. And just in a few minutes today is Israel Memorial Day. There'll be a siren here, remembering all the folks that fell in Israel's wars. But if you ask the average person, the average Israeli who's sitting in cafes, he thinks this war is just. He knows that we've got to push back bad guys. He knows that we have to restore life to the northern communities and to the Gaza envelope communities. We've got to restore that life. We can't allow the jihad to come and crush us. And that's what Iran has been doing. It's been creating a chokehold with its proxies, Hezbollah and Hamas. They plan to murder us. They plan to destroy us. And they did a pretty good job on October 7th. Now we're pushing them back. And the average Israeli is proud of the war that we have fought. And the fact that we're not as liked around the world, that's really a shame. It's too bad. People like Jonathan doing an amazing job explaining Israel. But with regard to Rahm Emanuel's statements about money to Israeli armament, I agree with Rahm Emanuel. Let's not receive any more handouts. Let's make what really these funds are. Let's rename them which is joint development funding for munitions. Israel is real world testing, battle theater testing the F-35, and it's generating tons of sales around the world because Israel is actually the best ally the United States has, the fighting ally. Look at the NATO allies. They've been getting money for years for defense. They've done nothing to defend the United States. They're just receiving handouts. Israel has shown itself throughout this process as strong economically, militarily, and I think there's going to be a shift back at the end of this war, and people see who's standing in this war.
But you know what I would say? Okay, but what I would say to that, Ishai, is that, I remember in the Iraq War, one of the most devastating images that came out of that war was the Abu Ghraib image of American troops abusing Iraqi civilians. And it shocked America, profoundly shocked America, and caused enormous damage, actually, to America's reputation, to American military's reputation, and so on. This image that came out overnight of this IDF soldier desecrating a statue of Jesus Christ, I don't think it's as bad as the Abu Ghraib images, which were truly appalling and involved a lot of people. But as a singular image, when you're trying to persuade a country like America, which is majority Christian, so has hundreds of millions of Christians living in it, when you're trying to persuade them of the validity of committing the American military to a war that was clearly being driven by Benjamin Netanyahu to promote Israel's interests. When you're trying to do that, hard to imagine a more damaging image to come out than the one we saw that came out overnight. Because it'll have hundreds of millions of Americans asking themselves, why are we fighting with these people?
Okay, so first thing, that image is not a win, and it should have never been done. And both the Army and the Foreign Ministry has apologized, and rightfully so. So that's the end of that. Meaning to say, it was a bad thing to do. And you're right, it's definitely a harmful image. But most American Christians still know the Bible, and they know that the jihadists are not the Bible. Don't let Palestine win. It'll take over Israel and destroy the biblical story. Israel is a biblical story coming to life right now. The return of the Jewish people, the ingathering, the rebuilding of Jerusalem. It's an amazing story. And most Christians who love Israel will continue to support Israel. And with regarding to you threw in a phrase there, which I can't let it slide. You said, this is a war that Bibi Netanyahu has been pursuing to further Israel's interests. This is a war against the fusion of jihadism and communism, which the Iranian regime has been promulgating around the world. They want to destroy you, and they want to destroy your London. They want to destroy the United States. They want to destroy Israel. This is a battle for liberty. Liberty.
What a disgusting thing to say. What is this man talking about? This man just literally said like Islam is the enemy, and he's framing 2 billion people saying the same ideology they believe, and they're going to destroy you in London and everywhere, everybody. That's just disgusting, and it's not true. Islam has been here for thousands of years, and it's going to be here after you, after America, after these civilizations. Doesn't matter. It's a religion. You can't just attack a religion and paint all its people just as or they're all jihadis. Of course, every religion has some extreme in it. Is whatever you are, that's what you're going to bring to the religion. If you're a violent person, you're going to bring violence to that religion. Doesn't mean the religion is violent. It's you're violent. You're the one. But it has nothing to do with the religion. The religion is perfect. It's just the people that are not perfect, and they bring whatever imperfections that they have to the religion. But just to go and just say, yes, they're coming after you and they're doing this and they're doing that, you have to understand Islam has given people freedoms and rights before democracy. Women had the right to vote, the right to marry whoever they want, right to have their own business, and all of this before democracy, before Western civilization. And you have to understand, history is long. History is not just you control 100 years here, 100 years there. History is long. So, and Islam has been here for a long time. And to attack Islam is just nonsense. What this man is saying is just propaganda. He's talking up from his ass. What a liar. Well, let's continue this preposterous propagandist liar's theory.
It's a global battle for liberty. It's sad that a lot of people don't see that. They think the way you kind of phrased it, which is like, this is about, Israel's security interests or Israel's interest. No, or maybe it's about oil and money. No, this is about liberty for the world. It's about a fight against a regime. I heard your interview with the Iranian professor before this panel, And, you were saying to them, like, hey, you can't speak the truth in your country. You can't say what you want. This is a autocratic regime. And he wouldn't admit that. But that's the truth. And these guys have killed their own people. Look at my colleagues on this panel, right? They'll rip Israel, but they'll not mention jihadism or what Iran has done to its own people. The fact that they tried to kill President Trump, the fact that they murder people in the streets, the fact that they've attacked Israel for decades. And so this is a just war. Israelis feel that. Bad actions like the destruction of this Christian statue is wrong, and we'll rectify it. But the war is just, and we're going to keep fighting and be successful. And people.
That's disgusting. A liar again. I mean, these people do not care about Christianity. You see what they're doing to the what the Christians believe and the Jesus and everything. Muslims love Jesus, Christians love Jesus, and these people don't even believe in Jesus. So I don't know how they can tell you like, "Oh, we're fighting for you." They're definitely not fighting for you, and they're not in the right side of history, because when you're starting unprovoked wars and you're just attacking people because of whatever they believe and you don't agree with them, that's just injustice. And injustice will never prevail. But that's all I have to say for this one. But if you find this to be useful and you want to support the channel, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.